Hello! It is Groundhog Day, and according to Punxsutawney Phil, we are in for an early spring. I certainly hope he is correct, and the weather this week seems to agree. So, when you're homesteading and you get nice breaks in the weather like this, that means it's time to do some winter maintenance projects. So, let me show you some of the things we got done this week during the lovely weather. Hey, just me over here digging a great big hole. Why, you may ask? Let me tell you. So in the summer of 2022, my kids were out on the front porch here eating a peach for their snack and enjoying it, and when they finished they thought it would be fun to plant the pit in my flower bed. Didn't think anything of it. It's not going to grow. Lo and behold, it did grow into this lovely tree that got about 5 feet tall this past summer. So yeah, we have this peach tree growing here, and my flower bed here is not really the best place for it. Yeah, so now we need to transplant it because it's close to the house. It's a little bit warmer right here, so it took a while for it to go dormant, just before Christmas really. So we had to wait for that before we could move it, but now it is dormant, and that freeze is over, and then we got some pretty warm weather in like the mid to high 50s a couple days this week, so the ground is not frozen. It's actually quite soft and pretty easy to dig. So it's like 45 degrees today. It's supposed to be raining, but it's not, and I will take it because we've had plenty of that this week. So we are going to go ahead and get this moved. Well, there she is. Hopefully we didn't damage too many roots and it will survive. Let's go stick her in a hole. Oh, indeed. Water. Well, I think our hole might be...
Just right.
Yeah.
Deep.
Yeah, a little deep, but we can... But some of the roots need to go that deep, so you can fill in underneath it to kind of support it, and then we'll... move my hand around so I can hold it upright. There she be. Grow well, little peach tree. When you're trying to move around hay bales and the goats think that you're trying to make them a jungle gym. What are you doing up there, Demelza? You're supposed to be finishing your grain. You're supposed to be finishing your grain. This one over here is like just chomping out of the new bale, even though her feeder is full. Goobers. Evening chores, guys. It's a lovely day out. It's about 53 degrees right now. The sun is mostly out, a little overcast right now, but it's beautiful. So I am taking advantage. Kids are playing in the backyard. I've got all the house windows open to air out. And right at the moment, I'm coming out to prune some apple trees. So we have 2 apple trees here in the front yard. This one here is a red Rome, and then I have a Roxbury russet over there. And winter time, the end of winter, is the best time to prune apple trees for growth. You can do what's called summer pruning during the summer to kind of shape your tree if you're wanting to keep it small. But if you're wanting to create more vigorous growth, winter is the time to do it. So I'm going to be trimming these now, and at this point I'm not going to be doing any heavy pruning, just maintenance kind of stuff, which I will show you here in just a minute. If your tree is just in its first or second year, you can do some more heavy shaping prunes. But these guys are, oh goodness, 5 or 6 years old. So just maintenance stuff. I'll show you what I'm doing. Now I have some loppers here. These are pretty kind of small, but I actually really like these for this job. They're big enough to do the job, but small enough that they're really easy to handle. I do have some larger ones. They're a little more chunky, a little clunky, you know. It's harder to get into small spaces with them. So I do have those if I need them, but these work better. Plus these are sharper. So yeah, let's get to it. So this is that red Rome I told you about. I do have this deer net in the way here, so I'll try to get close enough to show you this. I might use these pruners here, these loppers, to point out what I'm doing. Anyways, so like I said, this is several years old now, and this particular tree is a spur bearing, so it doesn't grow the same way as some of the others. So there's really not a ton of extra branches I need to cut, but things like this branch here, you see how it's crossing into the center of the tree? That needs to go. And then just same with this one, and then just any suckers that might pop up, which I don't really see any suckers on this one. So just a few cuts on this one. I don't see any daffodils coming up yet, so hopefully I can step in here without damaging anything. I do have a blackberry over here trying to grab at me. Okay, hopefully you can see the branches pretty well from this angle. This is the one I pointed out earlier that is just started down here, which is great, but it is crossing up into the center of the tree instead of growing out. So I'm gonna take that off just down here at the base. Probably should have done this one last year, but oh well. So the bigger loppers would have been a little bit easier to get some oomph behind that. This is just an awkward angle. You want to, as best you can, get a clean cut so you don't open up the tree to diseases getting in there. This one did not cut as cleanly as I would have liked. This little guy in here looks like I might have cut this one last year and it just grew back. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that one. Same thing. It's just growing into the center of the tree, and it's gonna kind of clutter things up, make for less airflow. We're gonna cut that off. This one's debatable, right here. It's kind of going into the center of the tree a little bit. So I think I will go ahead and take it off, just so that, you know, I want more outward growth, less inward growth. This one's just kind of growing funky. It's like it turned. So I don't know what that's about. Maybe from a deer eating it, caused it to grow in a funky direction. And then this one is kind of curvy too. I don't know what that's about, but I may be able to get a spreader on this one, maybe, to kind of redirect it. But I don't think I'm going to cut it off. We'll let it go and see what happens. I think that's probably all for this tree this year. Now this one, on the other hand, this is a Roxbury russet. And as you can see, it has a much more open growing pattern. This is more typical for apple trees. It did get pruned when it was much, much younger to have this kind of open growth instead of a prominent middle here, just to try to keep it smaller for easier harvesting. But as you can see, we do have several branches that are growing into the center where they don't belong, so I will need to get those. Again, I don't really see any suckers on here, but if I did, I would cut those as well. So basically what a sucker is, it's a branch that comes off of one of these other branches and it just grows straight up. It can also grow off of the root system down towards the base of the tree. But they just go straight up towards the sky, and they do not produce fruit. They simply sap energy from your tree. So you'll want to cut those off any time of the year that you see them popping up, which I don't really see any on here, so we don't have to worry about that. As I said, this one has a much bigger spread, so it's a little harder to get in here to work. But same thing, we have a couple of branches in here that are growing towards the center of the tree. So we're just gonna cut those off. Make sure we get lots of airflow in the center of the tree. This tree seems to be growing a lot in that direction. If this one was pointing outward, that'd be wonderful, but it's not. I could let it grow and it just be kind of strange shape, or I could take it off. That is the question, which to do. This little branch here is just crisscrossing. It's gonna rub. Could possibly injure the other branch, so I'm just going to take it. I'm going to debate on this one here for a moment while I look around the other side. I'm going to take this one way down here close to the ground. We don't need branches this low. One's crossing over. Okay. I think I decided this branch here, even though it's quite large, probably should have been done last year. In fact, I believe this is where it started growing last year. So it did a lot of growing just last growing season. It may have been trimmed at one point, I'm not sure. But this guy kind of goes all the way up through, it's this one here. So he's kind of going all the way up through there, which at this point isn't a huge deal, but I'm thinking once this apple tree is fully mature, that might, be problematic. So I think I'm going to do an angular cut right above this node here, and then perhaps we can get this to grow into another main branch out that way. So it will still have a branch here on this side of the tree, but it won't be going up through the center. There we go. Now it's a bit more open. Less crowding, more airflow in the middle means less disease. So our apple trees are ready for the season. So there you have it. That's what I do to prune our trees in winter, and now they are ready for a wonderful year of growth come spring. Well, that's about all I've got for you today, guys. Really, winter time when you're homesteading is the season of slow. Homesteading really beautifully interweaves with nature's rhythms. In springtime, you're prepping, baby animals are coming, you're getting things in the ground, things are starting to come to life. Summer, there's a lot of maintenance to keep that stuff going. Then fall is your harvest and preserving time. But when winter comes, that's when things kind of get quiet and you have a chance to kind of rest and recover and recharge. Rather than harvesting and preserving food, you're eating the food that you already grew and preserved last year. And you're planning ahead for what food you're going to grow and preserve this year. So it's just a time of resting and planning. There are, little things like I showed today that, we can tackle when there's a nice break in the weather. Animals are still fed and cared for, but really it's pretty low key, It's the time where we can just nourish ourselves, gives ourselves a little bit of a break from the stress and the hectic crazy days that we had just gotten through with all that harvesting and preserving, and just letting ourselves recharge and get ready to do it all again. So that's all I've got for you this week. Next week, we'll see what happens. There may be some projects going on. There may not. We'll see what life brings. But spring is coming soon. So content is going to start picking up soon. Seed starting is going to start soon, which is always exciting because that means that spring is just around the corner and I cannot wait. So in the meantime, I hope that you are taking the opportunity to rest and recuperate and recharge and plan for whatever it is you are dreaming about doing this summer, be it gardening, getting livestock, whatever it is. I hope that your plans are going well, and feel free to share them. I'd love to hear. And until next time, I hope you have a wonderful, restful winter.